For the most part, I'm a pretty approachable person, like on the street, just being able to like come up to and talk to me. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna scare you off. I'm not gonna bite
Yeah.
unless you want me to.
This step. Break your click, break your system, take your pick. Never put the game on hold if I can't kick, don't fuck with my shit. Independent seas, independent slit. Reap the benefits, huh? Drop that, let it. But I'd rather sell a brick than work to build your house. My dependencies never fall upon waste use. Yet they slept on me, got a bus just to wake you.
All right, welcome to the My Creative Friends podcast, where one or two creative friends join me. Today I have Phoenix Gray. Also one of the coolest names in the biz, all right? Just want to say that up front. I'm your host, Michael Costa, and I think we should just get into it. I think the more traditional question is always like, why did you start? How did you start? Why do you still do it? Like, maybe that's a lot of questions in one question. Okay, how did you start? Tell us about your first gig, or like why you wanted to get into modeling.
I mean, I used to do it professionally when I was younger. So when I was 16, I was actually in Paris doing runway.
Okay.
And when I came back to back to Owen Sound where I lived, when I moved to Toronto for school, I didn't have time for castings anymore when I had to actually go. And the agency I was with they weren't very happy with me with the fact that I was no longer able to go to any castings because I saw school as that was my commitment now. I was going to school. That was my education.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of dropped off doing anything for a while. Like I stopped doing any prints. I was in a few magazines. I was in a few ads, billboards, and then I was on a few like apps too. And now, fast forward into like where I am now, I kind of picked back up once I graduated school. I had more time to like get back into it. I never went to any modeling agencies anymore, and I was just kind of, it just developed based on working with like friends, taking photos, and then it kind of, my friend group grew to more of a creative field. So like almost all my friends now are photographers. So it's a huge bonus when it comes to getting a photo. Yeah. So it turns out it's more of like we're hanging out and taking photos like a fun thing. Yeah. It's not like we're just doing a photo shoot and that's just how it is.
Yeah. But you've always been open to like shooting with even new folks too. I mean, obviously like I started off new and everyone started off new.
Yeah.
But actually, it's funny because I wrote down this question for later on in the podcast, but I think this is a good time to transition to that. So, like, as your following continues to grow, because I know it will, where do you, like, draw a line at, like, okay, like, newbies, I probably should not. Like, you know, like, or do you not? Or is it just different? Or is there an isolated list? And am I part of that isolated list? You know, like, what's your mindset on that?
I feel like it's a very kind of gray area where it comes to.
That's really ironic. That's a pun.
I know, actually. Right? Yeah. Gray. That if someone that's pursuing something in modeling and they see that as their career and they're growing with that, they obviously become more professional and they know how to pose, what to do this and how to do that, how to dress and how to act.
Yeah.
And working with new people is always great to kind of expand your skill set by showing someone new. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to draw the line where someone is like fresh out the boat. Like, I want to take photos of you. I've never taken photos before. Yeah. Kind of thing. So I've always kind of seen it as working as a relationship back and forth. You want it to be equal parts for the photographer and the model.
Right.
So if you have an experienced model, I believe that if the photographer is experienced and you guys work on a collaboration level, you're both getting something out of it because you're both bringing forward a professional kind of mindset to it, versus maybe you have a professional photographer and not a professional model. In my opinion, that model should be paying the photographer because you're getting a quality that you can't really put out yourself. Therefore, they're putting in more work than you are.
Interesting.
And it should be vice versa for if the photographer isn't professional, but the model is, then that photographer, if they want to shoot with that model, they should be paying them.
Yeah. I think that's a question a lot of people have all the time.
It comes down to the whole, if someone's not in a creative industry, they don't understand the value of someone's creative talents. Like the same thing when it comes to my art, now that I'm making stuff. Someone that has never made art before or had to like make something themselves, they don't understand the time and effort and passion that goes into it. So they don't see the same value as it. So for me, coming into a modeling and photography mindset of that, I see people as like, I know how much time and effort it takes to not only take the photos, set up the photo shoot, edit the photos, and all of this stuff, because I come from that creative background. When someone else that doesn't, they're kind of like, oh, you're just going to take photos of me.
You said something I thought was interesting, and actually I want to tie that to a question. This is something I've been interested in a while. So like photographers learn a lot with every different model that they work with, like new poses, new looks, like different things, like fashion, like different things like that along those lines. What does a model take out of working with different photographers?
Wow. I've never actually like thought of it that way.
We don't learn anything.
we're dumb and we look pretty behind a camera.
You guys can't teach us about anything.
But when it comes to anything, like I've learned, I think it more comes from the experiences you come from it. Like I've done so many different ranges of photo shoots where it comes to just hanging out with a friend and like taking photos in a park versus a whole high set studio that's booked with a makeup artist, hairstylist, stylist, everyone that works as a team. So seeing that whole range of people kind of comes from, what I've kind of learned from it is different levels of professionalism that you bring forward to the table to kind of create your own, like not only your character, but the persona of who you show to who you're working with. So it's like little, I wouldn't say I've learned like any like tips and tricks of like, you know, besides maybe a photographer that's like above that my level that knows exactly the look that he wants, where he's like head up a little bit more, like shoulders, like little things, like cues like that.
That's true.
Are now ingrained in like, okay, I'm gonna remember that for next time because I know I see how the photo looks.
Because that's the one thing too, right? Like I think there are so many different types of photographers and how they interact with the model. So like I feel like a lot of photographers are a lot more reliant on the model to come up with the poses and the different whatever, right? Or even down to outfits like wardrobe. Like we're on the flip side of that. It's some people are very particular and specific, and we know people on both sides of that spectrum, I think. But I think that is something where if you have someone who's very like specific in what they want, that is maybe something where you learn like, oh, cool, that's a pose I've never tried before. This is a facial expression or like an emotion that I'm evoking through facial reactions or whatever that I've never tried to do before.
And I think it comes from the whole, it more or less, you learn also, like I said before, you're learning from your experiences to see what the result is. And if you're continuing to see the same result or different results in the photographs, you kind of learn to like, okay, I know that if the photographer is at this angle and I'm looking a certain way, I know that maybe my eyes aren't looking all the way off to the side because I know the photo is not going to work because it's just going to see the white of my eyes versus if I'm looking off just a little bit more to the distant.
Yeah. Angles are so important. Yeah. I never really thought about it from the model's perspective of like, how attentive they need to be of where the photographer is and where their eyes need to be in the context of that.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even really think about that, but that's so true.
I've noticed a lot of, it makes it a little bit easier on the photographer's end when they're going through the photos going, these 20 photos from this angle don't work because you're looking so far in the distance. But it comes from either no one telling you that or you seeing those photos themselves. And that comes back to me befriending all these photographers. I'm looking at like all these photos of me going like in between takes. So I can kind of see going, okay, I look like an idiot here, or this, I know I get to see that kind of the perspective of you guys seeing how those photos look, going, none of these work because I don't have my angling right, or my facial expression is off because you're at a higher angle or a lower angle.
Yeah. That's so true. Like, having that added value of actually being friends with someone gives them the feeling that they can show you the funnier photos.
Yeah.
Or maybe to them, like to us, it's a funnier photo. But for you, you're like, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that. Right?
The amount of photos I've seen from my friends have taken, I'm like, I'm sure everyone has like a good like bank of photos of me just with the ridiculous looking faces in between. Like,
I know I have photos of just like transitions, of you like transitioning from one thing to another thing. So that doesn't really count towards what we're talking about. It's still funny nonetheless. Yeah. Okay, cool. So one thing I wanted to do was show you some photos. This is a segment I've never done before. It's called What is Going On Here? Some of these are humorous. Some of them maybe are serious. Just give me the context. But I think there's probably a couple that are running through your head right now where you're like, I know you're going to ask me about this.
oh, geez. Okay. That's...
Okay. So for the first photo, we have the octopus.
Oh,
So
yes.
I was going through your photos, and this is the photo that actually triggered the idea of doing why? It's cool. I love the photo. It was just like, I remember when you posted it, and I was like, is that an octopus on his face? And I think the most of it is because like I would never feel comfortable putting an octopus on my face. I'm so bad with that kind of stuff.
I'm going to tell everyone now,
Yeah.
not recommended.
Not part of
It
like a
smells
face.
so bad. And my hair and my face, I could smell like it smelled like seafood for like 5 days afterwards. I was
That
like,
long?
yeah, it was.
Oh my God.
I like washed my hair so much and it wasn't coming out. It was the worst idea.
We
ever.
had so much hair back then too, right? Oh man.
But I saw a photo. I can't remember where I saw it online, but it was like this one girl. She just had like her head up, and the photo was like coming down. And she had, first of all, she had the full octopus in her mouth, which I was kind of like, I'm not doing that. But all the tentacles were like coming out of the mouth. And I was like, that is so cool. And that was my original thought for the photo, because I was like, I want to recreate that, until I brought it home.
Yeah.
And I had it out of the bag. Like I went to Chinatown and because I was like, where am I gonna get a squid or an octopus like downtown Toronto?
Yeah.
And then I go to Chinatown, and lo and behold, oh my God,
Lo and behold.
Gotcha. They have a whole tank of just like dead ones on ice, and I was like, okay, this will work.
Cool. All
Didn't
right.
know how bad she was. I was like, can I just get that one? And then I brought it home, and then it was in the fridge for I think like maybe like 4 days before we actually took the photo. So I don't know if maybe like that's
It
something
spoiled
you
or
have to
something?
like eat right away or do
Yeah.
something with. But the smell was terrible, and it stuck to everything. And even my bathroom, it smelled like bad seafood for a good week.
So
no
would-
matter how much I cleaned.
Wouldn't recommend.
Yeah, unless you're like doing that inside and you don't mind your hair smelling or any part of your body smelling like seafood for a long
Yeah.
time, not recommend.
Or wear a bodysuit or something.
Yeah, or maybe like just kind of like hold it far away from you.
Yeah. Or don't even hold it, have it clamped up or something. Yeah. Photoshop, right? All right, let's see if I can throw in one more here. Okay. Yeah, this is a funny one. So usually people sit on Santa's lap, but
Yeah.
this time he sat on yours, and I'm curious to know, did he tell you what he wanted for Christmas?
No, he actually didn't tell me what
No.
he wanted for Christmas.
What?
So this was at the Fairmont. They had their opening of their like Santa's Shack over Christmas time, which they do like every year.
Okay.
And they always have this amazing Santa that honestly, if I were to think of Santa, that's exactly what he would look like.
Yeah.
So he's the same one that they use every year. And I was like, you know what? I'm in all red. I want a photo with Santa sitting on my lap for a while. So we asked him, he was like, oh yeah. Like he was totally cool with it.
That's so funny. He looks like he's like cool with it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was like, he's a big guy too. And he was like, he's like, I'm not going to squish you. I'm like, I'll be fine. But like, it was a very like, you don't realize how awkward it is when someone tries to sit on your knee and like still like stand up. but we managed to make it work.
Very nice. Very nice. All right. Move on to another question or two here, and then we're going to go into another segment.
All right.
Reading my questions. This is actually a question I really wanted to ask you. And I know we've had conversations about this, like in like brief, I don't know. There were short conversations. One thing I've always admired about you is just how like you understand that you have a platform and a voice that you can use on that. And so with that being said, over the last few years, you've been pretty vocal on like things that you find are like immoral or like, you know, just injustice or whatever. And so my question to you is, because I mean, you have pretty passionate fans. You get fan art, you get stuff like that. It's pretty cool. What is the reaction like, both positive and negative, when you put out stuff like that?
I guess it's the more positive aspect that I've gotten from is a lot of really good recoil from it, from a lot of people that it resonates with. So they're like, online, everyone sees so many different people. You see, obviously, the glamorous lifestyle of influencers and models and photographers that are traveling and doing all this stuff. And that's the only side you really see of them. And everyone has either like an assumption or what they think this kind of person is like.
Yeah.
And I've always I grew up in a small town, was bullied a lot of judgmental calls were made on people not knowing who I am as a person. So I wanted to make it like very clear with my online presence is that I want to be as genuine as I can.
Yeah.
So if we're someone to see these like photos of me and then they see like my stories and how I act and how I am as a person, they realize that it's all a show that's put on for social media. Like I wouldn't say it's a lie.
Yeah.
Because there's still aspects of my life that are incorporated into it.
Yeah.
But with social media, you only see the positive and everything good about it. And not everyone is positive and has a great day every single day.
Yeah.
We all have shitty days.
Yeah.
So especially when it comes to like me speaking out about certain things, I'm very vocal about it to let people know that, yes, this is a platform that I have and I want to make sure that it's used for good. So if people have this capability of being able to just reach out to like, just talk to me about something, not saying I don't have the time, but when I have the time to get back to someone, that they just feel like they were heard. Even if they don't have a conversation, the fact that I acknowledged that they said something is a lot more powerful than just nothing, no capability, and not having anyone to reach out to. Because I was like, I never had anyone to really talk to about anything growing up, like close, like personal things that I like, demons I dealt with. Yeah. So I've made it very clear that on my platform, people can reach out to me if they just want to talk. And the amount of people that I've had that just like spark up a random conversation about like, oh, I went through this and all this other stuff. And I mean, I'm no therapist. I will probably give you the worst advice, but I can give you a perspective on it. So when people see that and hear that from me, they're like, okay, he's actually like a real person and he's a kind, moderately gentle person.
There's a very interesting thing in what you're saying. So there's a channel that I actually follow fairly closely. It's called Kind of Funny. They're pretty funny guys, as the name suggests. But the way that they refer to their fans are as best friends. And so they're very similar in what you're saying. They're very vocal with them. They include them in a lot of the content and however they can. In a lot of ways, I feel like that's kind of been your approach. And I'm not saying that it's like a strategic approach, but you know, a lot of it's an interesting one because as you grow, your audience grows with you and your audience becomes this, like your friends. Yeah. It's really, really interesting. And that's how you've met like a ton of your photographer friends like are really close to you today too, right?
Yeah. They've realized that I'm still this, I mean, I look intimidating in some of my photos, but for the most part, I'm a pretty approachable person, like on the street, just being able to like come up to and talk to me. I'm not going to scare you off. I'm not going to bite unless you want me to.
I love that you dead-eyed the camera and said that. Amazing. That needs to be like the first 5-second teaser of the video.
That'll be it right there, unless you want me to.
Yeah.
But yeah, being the most kind of genuine person I can be, and progressing that online for a voice to people see that, it not only grows, I guess, me as a kind of a branded content online, but it gets people not only more engaged, but they relate to you more. They like you more. They like your photos more. It's not, I wouldn't say it's like a strategic approach to like grow my Instagram more, but they see me as a real person and they relate to me more. Therefore, my content is more relevant to them, instead of just going through the discovery page going, oh, look, hot people traveling. And it's like, okay, great. Those are great photos, but who are they really as a person?
Yeah.
So that's been like the positive aspect, that I get a lot of good moral kind of reward out of it, that these people are relating to me and I relate to them and we have more of a connection. But then on the counter side of that, I maybe have a view that someone doesn't agree with, and then I lose those followers for it. So in a way, that's good and bad. Like, especially with all this controversy that's happening in the world right now, especially around Black Lives Matter and everything, I've been very vocal in my aspects of support for them. I've lost thousands of followers because of it. And I'm like, you know what? Good riddance.
Yeah.
I'm like, those aren't the kind of people I want, not only in my life, but on my platform, if they're going to be promoting hate and all this other stuff with it.
Well, that's something that's really cool too, because as you continue to grow in, like, you know, I know it's just a number, but it's not, it seems like it's actually not that with you. It's people that you connect with. And as that number grows, it's going to be filled with more people that actually support you and your ideas and
exactly,
like who you are as a person and the morals and stuff like that. So that's cool. Okay, cool. So now a segment that I have reoccurring on my show is called Behind the Snap. And so similar to what we were doing before, but not as, you know, comedic in nature. It's just like 3 photos that I thought are really cool on your feed. I just want you to give me some context. I want you to tell me like where you shot it, maybe who you shot it with, and any interesting details or whatever you can think of.
Okay.
Cool. All right. This is actually a more recent one. So this is the first photo.
All right.
I love this photo.
Props to Brody for that one. He was my quarantine buddy for this. So we were hanging out pretty often because he lives just across the street from me. So he's the only person I've really seen, especially like being here by myself. I only have a dog. Yeah. I need some kind of human interaction. But we rode our bikes all the way out to the Scarborough water treatment plant.
Oh,
so
wow.
I had never been there before, and it was more for just going out just to see it.
Yeah.
And then we just happened to take some photos, and that's what we came up with. I was on the top of a ledge looking down at the water.
I find that's always the best approach, though. Just going somewhere, exploring, and then taking photos as you go. Yeah. And I remember our first shoot was over in Richmond Hill.
Yeah.
Right? And we found that observatory, and that spot alone was just really cool to look at and to walk around. And I think that was cool, too. Like, it was a good intro for us to each other. Like, I think I know we've met before at meetups and stuff, but like that was the first time like shooting together. And it's cool, too, because like it's something that takes away from like, I don't know, the stress or anxiety, but like
it takes away the pressure of your first time meeting. If you're just like more casually going into it, you're like, oh yeah, let's explore this place and take photos instead of we're gonna meet here, we're gonna take photos here, here, and here. Yeah. And it's more like it's very set versus like let's see how it goes. Yeah, it's more like let's have an experience and capture that versus like, okay, like there's like a high expectation of me, like I just gotta pump out a good photo and whatever, or vice versa, I gotta be good, whatever, right? Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. You're on the show next episode, okay? Okay. I've loved this photo for a while. This is an older photo. Okay. But I love it. Yes, that one. So that is another like not set in stone photo shoot. I was just walking around with oh my gosh, I can't remember who took that.
I don't remember. I think it was JJ. Yeah, it was JJ.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So he was originally shooting some other girl, and there was a few other photographers that were there too. And I was just walking around like with them, like we were just kind of like hanging out there taking photos. And he just happened to take the one photo right outside the Louis Vuitton window.
Oh, okay.
At Saks down the street. And and then we came from it. And I wasn't even like, I was wearing my trench coat and a hat because I didn't even do my hair. I was like, you know what, this is fine. And you would never know.
It worked out. It looked so intentional, just like how you planned it for weeks or whatever. I love that, man. And I love how it has like a film vibe to it. Even though I don't think JJ shoots on film.
I don't think, no.
I think he just like faded the blacks or something, but it looks awesome. I love this photo. Last photo here. You're wondering, what photo is this? I went way back.
I was like, there's a lot of photos to go.
I love this photo, and I'm wondering if I should give context before or after. I'm just going to say it. I'm going to set it up as I turn it over.
Okay.
So
I'm going to set it up.
I love this photo because a lot of the times when we look at portraits on rooftops, the city looks way too congested and it takes away from like the model. But I love how like, I don't know what rooftop you guys are on, but that is a really cool angle where all the buildings seem to be fairly well distributed and it's like not a distracting background. Yeah, and you're not even like in a medium or close-up shot. Like you're like a full body shot, and you're still the focus of the photo. But
the rooftop back when I used to do that.
Yeah, I mean like a parking garage that's really tall.
Course,
that's
yes.
what. Yeah.
It was somewhere in Yorkville, I believe. It was like. It wasn't a condo. It was just like an apartment building that was like open to like a rooftop that we went up.
Yeah.
And took those photos. And it was just like, once again, there was no photo shoot like set in stone. We were just kind of go there to like, you know, check it out and hang out. And then we just happened to take some photos up there.
Okay. That's awesome.
But yeah, I know what you mean. Like it's any like rooftop photo or parking garage photo that you see around Toronto now, it's all in like the downtown core, so everything is you don't get the detail and the skyline of Toronto. You just see like one building or just like the overall.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's why like I've always liked cityscape photos from like Humber Bay or something like that. Or there's another spot, and I think that you've shot it before too, which is even better for getting the skyline. The city line.
Like on the east side or the west? Because I know...
No, east side. I think it's east side, right? Like it...
I mean, if you're looking at like Cherry Beach area and by like the Rebel nightclub, you get to see like Polson Pier area. That's like the best side from the east side. And then the west side is more like the Humber Bay Bridge area that you get to see.
All right. Cool. Now, to transition into the last question, I'm going to keep this photo here.
Okay.
All right. Because it's pivotal.
Uh-oh.
Pivotal. Okay. So amongst being a great artist, a great model, and obviously you have a passion for fitness and all these things, one thing that doesn't get brought up enough, at least on my end, is how incredible at captions you are. Okay. You are the caption king. Okay. But what I cannot let you do is get away with this one. Okay. Because I have a high standard for you.
Okay.
What is the deal with this caption? Because this is the corniest one you've ever come up with.
I don't even remember what that one was. I have so many now at this point where
So this one is, and just to preface, I mean, as you can tell, I would assume by the photo on screen right now, there are holes in his shirt, right? And so your caption was, "My shirt is holy, I must be blessed." Tell me you read that somewhere.
I have to give myself a round of applause for that one because there's been so many now that I've gone through like my photos. I'm like, oh, these were so good. Like this was not appreciated for how petty or how good this caption was.
Okay.
But it's every time I wear that shirt, people are like, oh, there's holes in your shirt. Oh, did a moth eat your shirt? Or it was always like the running joke of like, I actually still have that shirt. I love it.
Yeah, it's
love
great
the
shirt.
holes
Yeah,
in
yeah,
it. No, like I guess it just kind of like clued in where someone was just saying like this holy shirt, and then I was like, holy.
Yeah, and then I was like, you're like high up too, I guess. Yeah.
So it was like a whole thing. So like I mean, I have a whole list of like made captions that I've like collected or like made over the years or done. So I'm like, I have a whole roster prepared.
You
for, like,
still have a ton, eh?
Oh, I have so many.
That's insane. That's insane. Do you ever reuse?
I haven't, but I feel like I should because there's so many good ones. Like
Yeah.
that one, like from years ago that like, I feel like people would appreciate them more now. But I like to
Had
make...
some, yeah. This is like on more of the PG version of some of the ones you've done too. I remember the one where you're holding a female and I think they Photoshop a wave behind you. And there was
yeah.
it was something like
something along the lines of like
like
the ocean isn't the only thing that's going to be wet.
wet.
Or, yeah. I know which one you're talking about.
That's like word for word.
I like to have like fun with it. I know a lot
Yeah.
of people are always like, they put too much time and effort into like, oh, what is the caption to this photo? What's the context? Some people like to do like quotes. Some people like to just say a word
Yeah.
or throw an emoji out there. I want to be a little bit different, but also from a marketing side of it.
It's
people are
hilarious,
either
yeah.
going to like it for the caption or the photo. So either way, I'm
Yeah.
going to
Well, like even my girlfriend is like don't get me wrong, I'm sure she enjoys your photos too, but she's like, honestly, the majority of the reason I follow Phoenix is because he has great captions. I'm just scared about the time where like she starts using the sassy ones on me. You know?
she starts using those things like, that sounds really familiar.
That's familiar and also hurtful. No, but I think to tie it all together, I think it all goes into just being open and transparent with your audience and also showing like what you think is funny.
Yeah, I'm
Right?
having fun with it. I mean,
Yeah.
some people, obviously, some people strike a nerve depending on what I say on a thing. But
Yeah.
I like to tell them, like, nothing is directed at you.
Yeah.
If you're taking offense to it, it's because you're feeling guilty about something. And then
Yeah.
you obviously feel that this is for you. I'm like, half the time, I don't even know most of my followers. So if you're getting
Yeah.
offended by something, I'm sorry.
Not sorry. Yeah, man. So I think that's a good place to cap it. That was good.
Yeah.
How was this? Your first couple podcasts? Yeah.
Yeah. That's totally
was
cool.
good?
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I'll have you on again.
Oh, absolutely.
Sweet. This has been the My Creative Friends podcast. My name is Michael Costa, joined by Orion. Oh my goodness. Phoenix Orion Gray. So many names. Stop it. Phoenix Gray.
Orion Gray.
Is it Orion?
Yes.
Man, I can't even get that right. That's a good sign to stop the podcast. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. And yeah, follow him. I'll have his tags down in the description as well. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And see you around.
Break your click, break your system, take your pick. Never put the game on hold if I can't get, don't fuck with my shit. Independent C's, independent split. Reap the benefits. Drop that, let it.